The emergency klaxons screamed through the corridors of Station Omega-7, their piercing wail cutting through the artificial atmosphere like a knife. Admiral Sarah Chen pressed her palm against the cold metal wall of the command center, watching the holographic displays show the same devastating truth over and over again. Earth was dying. "Ma'am, the Zephyrian fleet is maintaining position at the edge of our solar system," reported Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "They refuse to acknowledge our distress signals." Sarah's jaw clenched as she stared at the tactical display. 47 massive alien vessels hung in space like vultures, their sleek silver hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight. For 3 years, the Zephyrian Confederation had been humanity's greatest ally. They had shared technology, established trade routes, and even helped build the orbital defense platforms that now stood useless against the cosmic disaster unfolding before Earth. The sun was dying, not in billions of years as scientists had predicted, but right now. Solar flares had been erupting for weeks, each one more violent than the last. The magnetic field protecting Earth was collapsing, and radiation levels were climbing toward lethal thresholds. Worse still, the planet's core was destabilizing due to gravitational anomalies that no human scientist could explain. "How long do we have?" Sarah asked Dr. Elena Vasquez, the station's chief scientist. Elena's face was pale, her usually steady hands trembling as she manipulated the data streams. "At current rates of deterioration, maybe 6 months before the atmosphere becomes completely toxic, 3 months before the magnetic field fails entirely." 6 months. Sarah closed her eyes and thought of the 8 billion people on Earth below. Her daughter lived in New Sydney. Her parents had retired to a small farm in what used to be called Montana. All of them, everyone she had ever known or loved, would be dead within half a year. "The Zephyrians have the technology to help," Marcus said, his fists clenched at his sides. "Their stellar stabilizers could fix the sun. Their atmospheric processors could clean the air. Their ships could evacuate millions." Sarah nodded grimly. She had sent 17 formal requests for assistance through diplomatic channels. She had pleaded with Ambassador Kethvar personally. She had offered humanity's entire technological database, their art, their culture, everything they had built over millennia. The response had been the same cold, calculated silence. The communication panel chirped softly. Sarah's heart leaped for a moment, hoping against hope that the Zephyrians had finally responded. Instead, it was a priority message from Earth Defense Command. "Admiral Chen, this is General Rodriguez. We've received word from the other allied species, the Aquarians, the Stellar Coalition, even the Hive Minds. They're all pulling back their fleets. Every single one of them is abandoning the Sol system." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. It wasn't just the Zephyrians. Every alien species that humanity had called friend, every civilization they had traded with and fought alongside, was turning their backs on Earth's dying population. "Sir, what are their reasons?" she managed to ask. "Economic unfeasibility," came the bitter reply. "That's the official statement from all of them. They claim the resources required to save Earth would be too costly compared to the potential returns. They're writing us off as a failed investment." The communication ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Sarah looked around at her crew, seeing her own shock and rage reflected in their faces. These were some of humanity's best and brightest, stationed on the most advanced outpost in human space. They had dedicated their lives to building relationships with alien species, to representing humanity among the stars, and now they were being left to die. "Ma'am!" called out Ensign Park from the communications station. "I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the alien fleets. They're powering up their jump drives." On the main screen, the assembled alien armada began to shimmer and distort as their faster-than-light engines engaged. One by one, the ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving only empty space where humanity's supposed allies had been. Sarah watched the last Zephyrian dreadnought disappear and felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. Not despair, though that was there too. Something else. Something that would have surprised the aliens if they had bothered to study human psychology more carefully. Determination. "Ma'am, what are your orders?" Marcus asked quietly. Sarah turned to face her crew, straightening her shoulders. Around the command center, dozens of officers and technicians looked to her for guidance. Behind them, through the observation windows, Earth hung in space like a blue-green marble, beautiful and doomed. "We're not giving up," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "If the aliens won't help us, we'll help ourselves. Dr. Vasquez, I want you to pull every piece of alien technology we've been given access to. Strip it down, analyze it, figure out how it works." "Admiral, that would violate dozens of treaties," Elena protested weakly. "The treaties are void," Sarah replied coldly. "They voided them the moment they decided our species wasn't worth saving. Marcus, send word to all human colonies, all research stations, all military outposts. We're implementing Protocol Zero." Protocol Zero. The plan that every human leader hoped they would never have to use. Complete technological independence and rapid militarization. It had been developed during the early days of First Contact, when humanity wasn't sure whether aliens would be friends or enemies. Now, it seemed, they had their answer. Over the following weeks, Station Omega-7 became a hive of frantic activity. Human engineers worked around the clock to reverse engineer alien technology that had been freely shared during better times. The Zephyrian quantum computers that had revolutionized human science were torn apart and rebuilt. Aquarian biofilters were dissected and improved upon. Stellar Coalition weapon systems were studied and enhanced. Meanwhile, on Earth, the countdown to extinction continued. The planet's magnetic field weakened daily, allowing deadly radiation to stream through space and bombard the surface. Governments worked desperately to move populations underground. But everyone knew it was only a temporary solution. Sarah stood in her private quarters, looking at a holographic image of her daughter Amy. The girl was 15 now, brilliant and brave, studying xenobiology at the New Geneva Academy. In the last message Amy had sent, she had asked if the aliens were really going to let everyone die. Sarah had not known what to tell her. A soft chime indicated someone at her door. "Come in," she called. Dr. Vasquez entered, carrying a datapad and looking exhausted but excited. "Admiral, we've had a breakthrough. The quantum resonance patterns in the Zephyrian computers aren't random. They're following biological neural pathways." Sarah frowned. "Meaning what?" "Meaning their technology isn't just mechanical. It's partially organic, partially alive. And if we can understand how it works..." Elena's eyes gleamed with possibility. "We might be able to improve on it." For the first time in weeks, Sarah felt a spark of hope. "How long do you need?" "Give me 2 months and I'll give you a miracle." As Elena left to return to her lab, Sarah turned back to the image of her daughter. 8 billion people were counting on them, whether they knew it or not. The aliens had written humanity off as a failed species, too primitive and worthless to save. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In the depths of space, automated monitoring probes left behind by the departing alien fleets continued to record data about the Sol system. They dutifully transmitted information about the collapsing star, the dying planet, and the desperate human efforts to stave off extinction. What the probes could not measure, what their alien creators had never thought to monitor, was the one thing that made humans different from every other species in the galaxy. When faced with impossible odds, when abandoned by their allies, when death seemed certain, Humans did not simply accept their fate. They got angry, and angry humans, as the galaxy was about to learn, were capable of extraordinary things. The sun continued its violent death throes, sending waves of radiation and gravitational distortions throughout the solar system. Earth's magnetic field flickered and wavered like a candle in the wind. But in the laboratories and workshops of humanity's orbital stations, in the underground bunkers where desperate scientists worked by emergency lighting, a new force was being born. Humanity was about to evolve. The alien monitoring systems recorded rising energy signatures from human installations, but their programming dismissed these readings as the final, futile struggles of a dying civilization. The abandoned species was simply burning through their remaining resources in a last desperate attempt to survive. The monitoring systems were not equipped to recognize the birth of something new, something that would soon make the entire galaxy take notice. Something that would demand revenge for the betrayal of 8 billion innocent souls. In her command center, Admiral Sarah Chen looked out at the stars that had once seemed so welcoming and made a promise. To her daughter, to her species, and to herself. Humanity would survive this, and when they did, the galaxy would remember why it was a mistake to abandon them. The first phase of humanity's transformation was about to begin. 2 months after the alien abandonment, something impossible was happening in the Sol system. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood before a massive biomechanical construct that hummed with energy patterns no alien species had ever achieved. The machine was beautiful in its alien complexity, part grown and part built, its organic components pulsing with bioluminescent light, while quantum processors calculated solutions to problems that had seemed unsolvable just weeks before. "Admiral, you need to see this," Elena called through the communication link. Sarah Chen materialized as a hologram in the laboratory, her image transmitted from the command center where she coordinated humanity's desperate survival efforts. Behind her, through the laboratory's reinforced windows, Earth hung in space like a wounded animal. The planet's surface was now covered in a sickly green aurora as radiation poured through the failing magnetic field. "Tell me you have good news, Elena," Sarah said, exhaustion evident in her voice. Elena's face lit up with an expression Sarah had not seen in months. Pure, undiluted excitement. "We've done it. We've not just reverse-engineered their technology, we've improved it beyond anything the aliens ever imagined." Elena gestured to the biomechanical construct. "This isn't just a quantum computer or a biofilter. It's something entirely new. A hybrid system that thinks and feels and processes information in ways that make their most advanced AI look like a pocket calculator." Sarah stepped closer to examine the strange machine. It was roughly the size of a small room, its surfaces flowing between metallic and organic textures. Veins of light pulsed through translucent sections, and she could swear she felt it watching her. "How is this possible?" Sarah asked. "Remember what I told you about their technology being partially organic? Well, it turns out they were using biological components as simple processors. Nothing more. But human neurology is different, more complex. When we integrated human neural patterns into their quantum matrices," Elena paused, searching for words. "We didn't just copy their technology, we made it evolve." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. "You're saying we can actually save Earth?" "Better than that. We can save Earth and make it stronger than it ever was before." Elena brought up a holographic display showing the solar system. "This biomechanical hybrid can manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level. We can stabilize the sun, rebuild Earth's magnetic field, even terraform other planets in ways that would take the aliens centuries." Sarah felt tears threatening to spill from her eyes, but she forced herself to remain focused. "What do you need?" "Time and resources. The aliens left behind manufacturing facilities in the asteroid belt. Automated factories designed to process raw materials. If we can modify them with our new hybrid technology, consider it done, Sarah said immediately. Take whatever you need. How long? Elena consulted her datapad. 3 weeks to modify the factories, another month to produce enough biomechanical constructs to begin large-scale operations. If everything goes according to plan, we can start stabilizing the sun in 60 days. As Elena returned to her work, Sarah allowed herself to feel hope for the first time since the crisis began. But something else was growing alongside that hope, something darker and more focused. The aliens had condemned 8 billion human beings to death because saving them was not economically viable. They had calculated the cost in resources and decided that human lives were not worth the expense. They had made a choice to let an entire species die. That choice was going to have consequences. Over the following weeks, the asteroid belt became a hive of human activity unlike anything the solar system had ever seen. Massive manufacturing platforms that had been dormant since the alien evacuation roared to life, but they were no longer producing the crude materials and simple components they had been designed for. Under human direction, guided by biomechanical hybrid systems that thought in ways no purely electronic or purely organic system ever could, the factories began creating technologies that pushed the boundaries of known science. Stellar stabilizers that could regulate the nuclear reactions in a star's core with precision that made alien equivalents look like primitive tools. Atmospheric processors that could transform toxic gas into breathable air in hours rather than decades. Gravitational manipulators that could move planets as easily as a human might rearrange furniture. But the humans were not content to simply match alien capabilities. They improved on everything. The Zephyrian quantum computers that had once impressed human scientists were completely outclassed by biomechanical hybrids that processed information using quantum entanglement paired with organic neural networks modeled on human brain patterns. The result was not just faster computation, but intuitive problem-solving that could find solutions no pure artificial intelligence could discover. Aquarian biofilters had been remarkable for their ability to process organic toxins. Human-improved versions could manipulate matter at the molecular level, transforming pollution into useful resources, turning radioactive waste into clean energy, converting atmospheric poisons into fertile soil. Stellar Coalition weapons had been powerful but crude, relying on brute force to overwhelm targets. Human weapons integrated biomechanical targeting systems that could predict enemy movements, adapt to defensive measures in real time, and deliver precisely calculated destruction with an efficiency that was almost artistic. In the deep space monitoring stations that the aliens had established to watch Sol Systems' final death throes, automated systems began registering energy signatures that did not match any known technology. The readings were dismissed by alien artificial intelligences as equipment malfunctions. After all, the humans were a primitive species on the verge of extinction. They could not possibly be generating energy outputs that exceeded what their supposed superiors could achieve. The AIs were wrong. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed command center of Titan Base, humanity's first biomechanical hybrid facility. Through the observation dome, she could see Saturn's rings glittering in the distance, but her attention was focused on the holographic displays showing the status of Operation Renaissance. Stellar stabilizer deployment is at 70%, reported Commander Marcus Webb, who had been promoted and given charge of the space-based operations. We should be ready to begin solar regulation within the week. Atmospheric processing on Earth is ahead of schedule, added Dr. Vasquez from her position at the biomechanical interface. She had become something of a hybrid herself, her consciousness partially integrated with the quantum systems to allow for faster coordination. The toxic radiation levels are dropping faster than we projected. And our defensive capabilities? Sarah asked quietly. Marcus and Elena exchanged glances. This was the part of Operation Renaissance that they had not discussed openly, but everyone understood its necessity. Fully operational, Marcus said simply. The orbital defense platforms have been upgraded with hybrid technology. Our weapons systems are... He paused, searching for appropriate words. They are beyond anything the galaxy has seen before. Sarah nodded. The time for hiding was coming to an end. Soon, the alien monitoring systems would detect that humans had not only survived their abandonment, but thrived. When that happened, there would be questions. There might even be attempts to reclaim the technology that aliens considered rightfully theirs. The aliens were going to be very surprised by humanity's response. "Ma'am," called out Lieutenant Park from the communications station, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Defense Command. The planetary shield generators are online and functioning at full capacity. Earth's magnetic field has been completely restored." Through the observation windows of Titan Base, Sarah could see Earth in the distance, no longer the sickly green color of a dying world, but the brilliant blue of a planet reborn. The biomechanical hybrid systems had done more than repair the damage caused by solar instability. They had made Earth stronger, more resilient, more beautiful than it had ever been before. "Admiral," Elena said softly, "there's something else. The hybrid systems have been learning, evolving, becoming more sophisticated every day. They're starting to show genuine creativity, true innovation. We're not just using alien technology anymore, we're creating entirely new science." Sarah understood the implications immediately. Humanity was not simply surviving. They were advancing at a rate that would have taken them centuries under normal circumstances. The desperate need for survival, combined with hybrid technology that amplified human cognitive capabilities, was driving innovation at an unprecedented pace. In 18 months, humans had gone from a dying species dependent on alien charity to something new, something that might be superior to their former benefactors in every meaningful way. "What's our population status?" Sarah asked. "All 8 billion accounted for," Marcus reported with satisfaction. "The underground cities are no longer necessary, but we've kept them as backup facilities. Food production is at 150% of pre-crisis levels thanks to biomechanical agricultural systems. Medical technology has advanced to the point where we've eliminated most diseases and extended average lifespan by 40 years. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Her daughter Amy was safe, as were her parents and everyone else she cared about. But more than that, humanity as a whole was not just safe, but stronger than ever before. The question now was what to do with that strength. "Commander Webb, what's the status of our deep space monitoring network?" "Fully deployed, Admiral. We have sensor platforms throughout local space, all equipped with hybrid technology. We'll know if any alien ships approach the Sol system long before they arrive." "And our fleet?" Marcus's expression grew serious. 67 ships operational, with 12 more under construction. Each one is equipped with hybrid biomechanical systems. In terms of raw capability, any one of our cruisers could take on an entire alien fleet. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. The aliens had written humanity off as a failed investment, too expensive to save. They had calculated the cost of human lives and found them wanting. They had abandoned 8 billion people to die alone and afraid. They had made their choice. Now it was time for humanity to make theirs. In the depths of space, alien monitoring probes finally began registering energy signatures too large and too sophisticated to dismiss as equipment failure. Automated systems flagged the readings for review by organic intelligences, but the data was so far outside normal parameters that it was filed under anomalous phenomena rather than potential threat. The alien command structures that had abandoned Sol system months earlier were busy with other concerns. The Zephyrian Confederation was engaged in territorial disputes with the Stellar Coalition. The Aquarian Empire was dealing with internal political conflicts. The hive minds were focused on expanding their sphere of influence into uninhabited systems. None of them were paying attention to the supposedly extinct human species. None of them noticed that the readings coming from Sol System indicated technology that surpassed their own by orders of magnitude. None of them realized that they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. In her command center, Admiral Sarah Chen looked out at the stars and began planning humanity's return to the galaxy. When they did return, it would not be as the desperate, dependent species that had begged for help during Earth's crisis. They would return as something new, something that would demand an accounting for the 8 billion lives that the aliens had been willing to sacrifice for economic convenience. The second phase of humanity's transformation was complete. The third phase was about to begin. 3 years after the abandonment, the first alien ship to enter the Sol System in all that time was a Zephyrian science vessel on a routine survey mission. Captain Vexhai had been ordered to confirm that the human extinction was complete and catalog any useful resources that remained in the system. What he found instead changed the course of galactic history. "Impossible," Vexhai whispered as his ship's sensors painted a picture that contradicted everything he thought he knew. Where Earth should have been a lifeless, radiation-scorched husk, his instruments detected a thriving world with energy signatures beyond anything in Zephyrian databases. The Sol System was not only inhabited, but defended. Massive orbital installations surrounded every major planet, each one radiating power levels that exceeded entire Zephyrian battle fleets. Automated manufacturing complexes in the asteroid belt showed production capabilities that dwarfed the industrial output of whole alien civilizations. And the ships. By the 3 sons of Zephyr, the ships were magnificent. 69 vessels hung in formation around Earth, their hulls flowing between metallic and organic surfaces in ways that seemed to violate known physics. They were beautiful and terrible, clearly designed for war, but with an elegance that made traditional military vessels look like crude hammers by comparison. "Sir," called out his sensor officer, voice tight with fear. "We're being scanned. The energy patterns are unlike anything I've ever seen. It's as if they're looking right through our hull, analyzing every component, every system." Vexahai was about to respond when his communication console activated without any input from his crew. The screen flickered and resolved into the image of a human female, her dark hair streaked with silver, her eyes cold as vacuum. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force," the woman said, her voice carrying an authority that made Vexhai unconsciously straighten in his command chair. "Captain Vexhai of the science vessel Bright Current. You are trespassing in human space without permission." The Zephyrian captain felt his breathing apparatus flutter in shock. How did this human know his name? How did she know the name of his ship? And how was she speaking perfect Zephyrian, when humans had never shown aptitude for their complex language patterns? We were informed that this system was uninhabited," Vexhai managed to say. "The human species was reported extinct following solar instability." The human admiral's expression did not change, but something in her eyes made Vexhai's skin crawl. "Extinct? Is that what you told yourselves? That we simply died quietly after you abandoned us?" The words hit Vexhai like physical blows. The abandonment had been classified information, known only to the highest levels of the Confederation government. How could this human possibly know about the decision to withdraw support? "I don't understand," he said weakly. "Then allow me to educate you, Captain. 3 years ago, your Confederation, along with every other alien species we had considered allies, made a calculated decision. You determined that saving human lives was not economically viable. 8 billion people, including children, were written off as an acceptable loss. As Admiral Chen spoke, holographic displays materialized around Vexhi's command center, showing footage from the evacuation, recordings of diplomatic conversations, detailed financial analyses of the decision to abandon humanity, information that should have been impossible for humans to access. "You made your choice," Chen continued. "Now we're going to make ours." The transmission ended, leaving Vexhi alone with his terrified crew and the growing realization that they had encountered something far beyond their understanding. His ship's sensors continued to paint an impossible picture of human technological advancement, but now he was beginning to understand what it meant. Humanity had not just survived their abandonment. They had evolved into something that made their former allies look primitive by comparison. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a data packet from the human fleet. It's a message for the Confederation High Council." Vexhi authorized the transmission, watching as terabytes of data flowed through his ship's systems. When the download was complete, he opened the file with trembling manipulator appendages. It was a formal declaration of independence from all existing galactic treaties, along with a comprehensive list of grievances against every species that had participated in the abandonment. But more than that, it was a demonstration of capabilities that no Zephyrian scientist would have believed possible. Detailed scans of every alien vessel that had been present during the evacuation, complete with structural analyses, weapons specifications, and tactical assessments. Technical specifications for technologies that exceeded current galactic standards by centuries. And perhaps most disturbing of all, personal information about every alien leader who had voted to abandon humanity, including data that should have been impossible to obtain. The message was clear. Humanity knew everything, could do anything, and was no longer bound by the rules that governed the rest of the galaxy. "Captain," his navigation officer called out urgently, "the human fleet is moving. They're taking formation around us." Through the viewport, Vexhi could see the elegant human ships gliding through space with a grace that made his own vessel feel like a clumsy cargo hauler. They were not threatening him directly, but their message was unmistakable. He was here by their sufferance, and that sufferance could be withdrawn at any moment. "Sir, incoming transmission from Earth," his communications officer announced. Admiral Chen's image reappeared on his screen, but this time she was not alone. Behind her stood what was clearly a war council of human military leaders, each one radiating the same cold competence that marked their admiral. "Captain Vexhi, you will return to your government with our message. You will inform them that humanity remembers every species that participated in our abandonment. You will tell them that we have grown beyond their ability to control or contain, and you will deliver this final communication." A new holographic display materialized, showing a countdown timer. It read 72 standard hours and was decreasing steadily. "In 3 days, representatives from every species that abandoned us will present themselves at the edge of our solar system for negotiations. They will come unarmed, in small diplomatic vessels, and they will explain to us why their species deserve to continue existing." Vexhi felt his breathing apparatus seize completely. The humans were not just making demands. They were threatening the extinction of entire civilizations. That's genocide," he whispered. Admiral Chen's expression remained unchanged. "No, Captain. Genocide is what you attempted to do to us. This is justice. Your species calculated the value of human lives and found them worthless. Now we're going to calculate the value of your lives using the same criteria." The transmission ended, leaving Vexhi in stunned silence. Around him, his crew stared at their instruments in disbelief as the human ships gracefully withdrew, leaving them free to depart. But the message was clear. They were being allowed to leave so they could deliver humanity's ultimatum to the galaxy. As the bright current fled the Sol system at maximum speed, Captain Vexhai tried to process what he had witnessed. Humanity had not just survived their abandonment. They had used it as a catalyst to become something entirely new, something that viewed their former allies not as superiors to be respected, but as threats to be eliminated. The transformation was complete. The desperate, dying species that had begged for help 3 years ago was gone, replaced by something that terrified even a veteran space captain who had seen the worst the galaxy had to offer. In the days that followed, Vexhai's report sent shockwaves through every major government in the galaxy. The Zephyrian High Council convened an emergency session. The Aquarian Empire recalled all ships to defensive positions. The Stellar Coalition activated ancient defense protocols that had not been used in millennia. But even as alien fleets mobilized and war councils debated responses, the countdown continued. 72 hours to explain why they deserved to live. Some governments chose defiance, mobilizing massive fleets and preparing for war against the supposedly primitive humans. Others chose diplomacy, hoping to negotiate from positions of strength. A few chose to ignore the ultimatum entirely, believing that no single species could threaten the established order of galactic civilization. All of them were wrong. Exactly 72 hours after Captain Vexhai delivered his message, the representatives arrived at the edge of human space. 12 species had sent diplomatic missions, while 6 others had come with war fleets, and 3 had sent nothing at all. Admiral Sarah Chen reviewed the assembled forces from the bridge of the HSS Retribution, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. The vessel was a perfect fusion of the biomechanical technology that had saved Earth and the focused anger that had driven human evolution since the abandonment. "Admiral," reported her tactical officer, "we have 47 alien warships at extreme range, along with 12 diplomatic vessels. The warships are maintaining defensive formations, but their weapons are powered." Sarah nodded calmly. She had expected this response. The galaxy's established powers could not conceive of a single species posing a credible threat to their combined might. They were about to receive an education in human ingenuity. "Open a channel to all vessels," Sarah commanded. When the communication link was established, she found herself addressing representatives of every major power in the known galaxy. Some appeared on screen as holograms, while others transmitted audio only. All of them radiated the same mixture of arrogance and barely concealed fear. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen, Supreme Commander of Human Space Forces," she began, her voice carrying clearly across the void. "3 years ago, your governments made a choice to abandon my species to extinction. Today, you will account for that choice." Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrian Confederation spoke first, his image flickering on the main screen. "Admiral Chen, the Confederation recognizes that mistakes were made during the solar crisis. We are prepared to offer significant reparations and technology-sharing agreements to address past grievances." Sarah's expression did not change. "You calculated that 8 billion human lives were not worth the cost of saving them. Using the same economic principles, we have calculated the value of Zephyrian lives. Our assessment indicates that your entire species has negative net worth to galactic civilization." The statement sent shockwaves through the assembled representatives. Other alien leaders began speaking at once, offering concessions, threatening retaliation, demanding explanations. Sarah let them talk for exactly 1 minute before continuing. "However, unlike your governments, humanity does not make decisions based solely on economic efficiency. We are prepared to offer you an alternative to extinction." The alien chatter died immediately. Every representative leaned forward, desperate to hear the terms of their survival. "Each species that participated in our abandonment will transfer 50% of their military assets to human control. You will provide complete technological databases and manufacturing capabilities. Your governments will be restructured under human oversight to ensure that no species is ever again abandoned to die for economic convenience. The demands were staggering. Sarah was essentially demanding the surrender of half the galaxy's military might and the end of independent alien governance. "This is preposterous," shouted Fleet Admiral Zark of the Stellar Coalition. "No species would accept such terms." "Then you may choose extinction instead," Sarah replied calmly. "We are offering you the same choice you offered us. Accept our terms and survive, or reject them and die. The difference is that we have the capability to enforce our decision." As if to emphasize her point, space around the alien fleets suddenly lit up with targeting lasers from human ships that had been invisible until that moment. Advanced cloaking technology, another improvement on stolen alien designs, had allowed an entire human battle fleet to position itself within striking distance without being detected. The alien representatives found themselves surrounded by forces they could not have detected and could not hope to match. Their combined fleets, impressive as they were, faced human weapons that operated on principles beyond their understanding. "You have 1 hour to reach your decisions," Admiral Chen announced. "Those who accept our terms will be escorted to processing stations where the transfer of assets will begin immediately. Those who refuse will be destroyed where they stand." As the communication link closed, Sarah allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The species that had condemned humanity to death were now faced with the same impossible choice they had forced on 8 billion human beings. The irony was not lost on her. In the hour that followed, 11 of the 12 species present accepted human terms unconditionally. The 12th, the Stellar Coalition, attempted to fight. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. Human weapons, enhanced by biomechanical targeting systems that could predict enemy movements with supernatural accuracy, tore through coalition defenses as if they were made of paper. Ships that had been the pride of their fleet were disabled or destroyed with surgical precision, their crews left alive but helpless. When the last coalition vessel surrendered, Admiral Chen opened communications one final time. "Let this be a lesson to the galaxy," she said, her words being recorded and broadcast throughout known space. "Humanity remembers. We remember every kindness and every betrayal. We remember those who stood with us and those who abandoned us to die." The image shifted to show Earth in the distance, blue and beautiful and very much alive. "You calculated our worth and found us lacking. Now we have calculated yours. The galaxy will be restructured under human oversight, not for conquest, but to ensure that no species ever again faces extinction while others stand by and watch." As alien fleets limped away to begin transferring control to their new human overseers, Sarah Chen stood on her bridge and thought about the journey that had brought them to this point. 3 years ago, she had been a desperate admiral watching her species die. Today, she was the architect of a new galactic order. The aliens had taught humanity many things during their brief alliance. They had shared technology and knowledge and culture. But the most important lesson they had taught was learned after they left. They had taught humanity that mercy was a luxury that only the strong could afford, and humanity, forged in the fires of abandonment and tempered by the certainty of death, had become very strong indeed. The age of human dominance had begun, not through conquest, but through justice. The galaxy would remember the choice that had created this new order. They had abandoned humanity to die. Now they would live under human rule, or they would not live at all.